Okay, hi, what we're going to do today on this video tutorial is talk about how to set a 5.4 camera up, taking it out of the case and putting it onto a tripod. The most important thing is actually get a good stable tripod set up before you even think about getting the camera out of the box. So that's what we're going to do first. You want a good sturdy tripod. This is the Manfrotto 58 that we're going to use here, and to set it up, what you want to do first is undo these three locking nuts here. Once you've undone those three nicely, pivot out on one leg and pull the other two out towards you. Get a good wide spread, make sure it's fairly even, then do up the three locking nuts again. Then you need to bring it up to the required height. And to do that, you can use these three here on either side. And if you move two in the same direction, it releases the three legs and they'll all move up together. And again, if you do it again, you can rock them back down, back into place. I'm going to leave it low today, so when I get the camera out, I can still see the top of the camera. Next thing, the camera itself. Open up the case. Once we've got the case open, what we're going to do before we even think about getting the camera out of the case, we're actually going to put the tripod plate onto the camera. So we take the tripod plate off the tripod, and on the bottom of the tripod plate there's actually a little arrow with lens, and we've got to make sure that we put that in the right direction. So we put that onto the camera. Do it up nice and tight. I've actually got a little tool, which is an old key, which just fits in perfectly to give it a nice tight fit, like so. Once we've got that on nice and tight, we can now take the camera out of the box. And we're going to put the camera onto the tripod, and we've got to make sure that we put the camera onto the tripod in the right way as well. And remember, I've already said about the lens on the tripod plate. The front of the tripod is this bit here. It's got the flat piece on it. So we've got to make sure that the lens bit is going to be pointing in that direction. As you can see, that's the back of the camera. The lens is going to go in there eventually. So we put it in there, snap it in, push that across. And once we've got it on, the first thing we've got to do is actually square the camera off. And I talk about squaring the camera off is because with a 5.4 camera, you've got lots of movements. You've got rise and fall, tilt and shift, and we've got to make sure that the camera's nice and square. And it doesn't matter if you know that you're going to be using rise and fall and tilt and shift in your shot. You should always start with the camera squared off, okay? The first thing to do, we're going to check to make sure that the camera's level this way. And you'll notice on the camera we've got these markings over here. This one's hidden because it's a little bit higher. So we're going to have to make sure that these are the right level. And to do that, we have to undo these two locking nuts here. Now, different cameras will have different locking nuts in different places. You've got to work out which one does what. But I know it's this one. And there we've got that little mark. And I'm going to bring this up to the top of that mark. Then lock those off. And again on the front, I'm going to do exactly the same. And now I know the top of the camera is nice and level. The next one I'm going to do is making sure these are nice and level. That's done by these two locking nuts on the bottom here. If I undo these two, we've actually got movement backwards and forwards, and we've also got a swing movement as well. With the swing movement, there's actually a notch that it falls into place, and you know it's square at the front. And on this one, there isn't actually any dials on there. On some of the 5.4 cameras, you actually got a dial that starts at 0 and goes out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On this one, you haven't, so you just have to do it by eye to make sure that they're leveled up. So I know the notch is in place. I'll lock that one off. Going to the back, goes into its notch, and then look underneath and make sure they're leveled up as well. So now I know that my three planes are actually level. Next thing to do is to put our lens into the front of the camera. With the kit that you get out of the store, most of the cameras have got two lenses. That's a wide angle and a standard lens. The standard lens for a 5.4 is a 150mm lens, and that's what I'm going to put in now. With this one, you'll notice that there's two notches at the top, and those two notches go underneath these two rebates here. The bottom slides in and goes up into place, and then you lock it across like so. Okay? If you take a lens out or put a lens in, it's always worth making sure that you actually haven't accidentally released the bellows as well. So it's worth just giving a quick tug on the bellows to make sure that the bellows haven't moved as well. Moving it round. So once we've got the lens in place, we've got the back of the camera as well, and this is where the film goes, so it's called our film plane. And we can actually take this back off as well by doing the same thing. So we've got this button that we push on top, push it across, and the whole unit comes out. Okay. Now for some of the 5.4 cameras, you actually have to take the whole unit out. So if you want to go from landscape mode to portrait mode, you'd put it back in differently. But with this particular one, it just has one position that it goes in. And then if you want to change it from portrait to landscape, there's this little switch here that you flick up, and then the whole thing rotates. And once you've got it in position, then you lock it back down again. The next thing we need to do is actually level the camera off completely, okay? So we've squared the camera off with the bellows and all the three planes. Now we actually need to level the camera. And the majority of the 5.4 cameras that are in the store have got these little levels on top. If they haven't, you'll just have to get a little level yourself. So I've just got to move these and just check. Move this one up so the bubble's in the middle. And then use this one. And make sure the bubble's in the middle. So now the camera is squared off, all the bellows are squared off, and the camera is nice and level, so it's ready for you to actually start your shoot. That's all I'm going to talk about with this one, but in the next video we're going to do about loading a 5.4 dark slide and inserting it into the camera. Thank you.